Today's carry. I started the day off with this GEC 25 in Desert Ironwood, and then I did a midday switch to my Spyderco Stretch and HAP 40 steel. Good all around knife. As much as I don't like these backlock types of designs, this one has really grown on me. So that's what I'm carrying today, little midday switched. For now, let's go ahead and roll the intro. In this video, I'm going to work on reassembling the Strider that I took apart in my last video. Like I said, I split the videos to hopefully not make it too long and just save everybody some time, because some people probably don't even need to watch the disassembly video. Here I have what I'm going to use as lubrication, or some of the lubrications that I do use. This is nano grease, and sometimes for a knife like a Strider, I will take the nano grease and the 10 weight nano oil. I'll mix these two things to come up with my own consistency of lubricant, and it works pretty well for me. I'm not going to use that today. Today, for the sake of simplicity and for time, I'm going to use my 85 weight nano oil. This is what I usually use in knives that have heavier blades like a Strider, or if I want to lubricate something like a detent tract, because you would be surprised the difference that makes in the action of a knife. So I'm actually going to put some oil on the blade, so that way when it interacts with this ball here, this detent ball, it's going to actually make it glide more smoothly. And this 85 weight lubricant stays put. So you only need a drop, and not even really a drop. You only need a fraction of a drop, and it'll keep the friction down between this and the tang of your blade, the detent ball and the tang of your knife blade. So what I like to do is I like to start from the G10 scale. And the reason why I start with the G10 scale is this pivot here is going to fit into that side. So I can kind of build the knife from the ground up, so to speak. So I'm going to lay that there. I'm going to apply, if you can see it, I'm going to apply a drop of oil to the this portion of the pivot. I'm actually going to move some of this stuff out of the way because it seems like I'm losing focus again. So excuse me for a second. All right, let's try this again. So I'm going to apply a drop of oil to the pivot, and I'm going to use this needle applicator to kind of run it around the actual pivot here. So the next piece that will go in, and if you forget, you can look at this and you can see the size difference between the two washers. So this is the larger washer on this side, which would go down like this. So the larger washer needs to match up with this side of the blade and this G10 side. So what I'm going to do is, there's already a little bit of oil down here. But I'm going to place just a few drops of oil around here. And that's going to do two things. That's going to hold this washer on when I drop it down, and that's going to lubricate the other side of the washer. So that way there's lubrication between the bushing, between the bushing and the G10 itself. I'm then going to apply 4 drops of oil, of grease, of oil, on the washer itself. So now I've got lubrication between the bushing and the G10, and I've got lubrication on the top side of the bushing where I'm going to put the blade on. So now I'm going to have lubrication between the blade tang and the bushing. And also, if you remember, I put lubricant on the pivot itself. So I also have lubrication there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put four drops of oil. And again, these aren't full drops. I guess I should specify that. I'm going to squeeze a little bit out, just enough that I can see it, and then I'm going to tap it to the tang itself, and then I'm going to drop the other bushing on. Now this also holds that washer, that bushing in place. So now I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 more drops. And now I think you can see there how when I pulled it up, it was kind of stringy. This stuff is pretty thick. So once I have all of that done, I'm going to add 1 more drop right here in this detent hole. And I'm going to make sure that way when the detent ball rides into that hole, it's going to pick up some of that lubricant. So, and this doesn't matter. You can do it however you prefer. But I am going to place it on the pivot itself. And then I'm going to place the handle in, and I can see that my pivot is sticking out some, so it didn't seat fully. So I need to make some adjustments. All right, there we go. And I'm going to open the knife up so that way everything is nice and secured. Now, you can see that this collar here popped up some, and like I said, you can just push it back in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely install this side of the pivot with my fingers. I'm going to then, keeping pressure on both sides of the handle, I'm going to then reinstall these screws. Now this screw here I'm going to just snug down, and I'll come back to that. I'm going to talk more about that screw closest to the pivot in a second. Now it doesn't matter if this is an SMF or an S&G we're talking about. That screw right there is going to play an important part in how you how your knife action is. So you can snug that one down pretty tight, and you can snug this last screw down fairly tight too, because this does not affect the action of the knife. So I'm going to just tighten that up and snug it up pretty tight. Now the only thing that I need to finish tightening is going to be the pivot itself. So before I come back and adjust that last screw. So again, I'm going to need my 1/8 inch hex key. That's going to go in here, and my tool is going to go on the other side. But for right now, I'm just going to kind of snug it down, and I'm going to see if I can get away with just that much tension. If I need more, I'll come back and I'll have to use my tool. So now that this is just barely snug down, I want to see, okay, there's no blade play. Now I want to see how the action is. You can see it doesn't drop free. So I need to adjust this here. And the key is to make it as loose as possible without any blade play. All right, you can see it's starting to drop. All right, let's check and see if we have any blade play. There's no blade play yet. So I'm gonna back off. And this is where this type of tool comes in handy for me, because like I said, I can make very small adjustments. I don't even know if you could see that. I just barely turned that screw the last time. All right, still no blade play. It's not dropping like it was before I put it together, but it's still smooth. I'm gonna adjust it a little bit more. Check and see if there's any blade play. There's still not any blade play. I'm going to back off this pivot just a hair. I don't know. Okay, there we go. I was going to say, I think it wasn't turning at first. So I'm going to open it back up, See if there's any blade play. There's not. The blade is starting to drop. So there we go. Now the blade is dropping. I'll give it a little bit more adjustment and then it'll be good to go. Now, of course, like I said, this is kind of the part of the video where people are going to say, that's really not necessary, blah, 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 blah. Hey, it's our knives. You adjust yours how you like it. I adjust mine how I like it. So I know a lot of the guys, they don't even use any type of standalone specific knife lubricant. A lot of guys will use WD-40, but that's just not how I like to use mine. You can see here that detent track has the 85 weight. There's a little bit too much. I'm not going to worry about it. It's dropping free. There's no blade play. It's good to go. So that is how you reassemble a Strider knife that you have taken apart. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.